Good afternoon. I'm Amanda Friedemann, Assistant Director of Education at Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center. On behalf of our CEO, Susan Abrams, our Board of Directors, staff, and volunteers, I'm honored to welcome each of you to today's program. The mission of Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center is expressed in our founding principle: remember the past, transform the future. The museum is dedicated to preserving the legacy of the Holocaust by honoring the memories of those who were lost and by teaching universal lessons that combat hatred, prejudice, and indifference. Today, our program, How a Montana Mom Became a Leader in Fighting Antisemitism with Tanya Gersh, does just that. I would like to take a moment to thank our docent, Cindy Carlin, for connecting us to Tanya. How has a mom from Montana become a leader in fighting antisemitism? The founder of a major neo-Nazi website orchestrated a horrific harassment campaign, launching a troll storm relentlessly terrorizing Tanya Gersh and her family with anti-Semitic threats, messages, and internet terrorization. The Daily Stürmer, which took its name from Hitler Nazi propaganda, encouraged their followers to take action after Tanya was asked and agreed to sell real estate for the mother of white nationalist Richard Spencer. When Spencer learned his mother contacted a Jewish agent, he took action. Consequently, Andrew Anglin with the Daily Stürmer took interest. Anglin's online posts included Tanya's personal and professional contact information and photographs of her family. To Anglin's followers, Tanya became the enemy, and they contacted her in every way possible to be sure she knew it. The threats took an emotional, physical, social, and professional toll on Tanya, her family, and her entire small mountain town community, but Tanya fought back. The Southern Poverty Law Center filed suit in federal court on behalf of Tanya, winning a more than $14 million judgment against the neo-Nazi leader and took his credibility as a leader. Tanya's groundbreaking case sends a message to extremists and others who spread hate. Direct threats are considered acts of terrorism. This will not be tolerated, and there will be serious consequences for those who terrorize. Whether online, by phone, or in person. Those who use their right to free speech to spread hate will be held liable for the consequences of their actions. Tanya won't let being a victim define her. Her courage and strength to not let hate win and to assure this never happens again is a message she has become passionate about sharing. The lawsuit is over, but her work has just begun. We have hundreds of people attending the program today from around the nation. We will have time for a short audience Q&A at the end of the program. We will do our best to get to as many questions as possible, but we may not get to them all. Please submit your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Tanya, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. It feels like every time I get to talk and connect with other people who have an interest in my story, the more I heal and the more I feel like what happened to me wasn't just a tragedy, but was also potentially part of something that can really make a difference and can make positive changes. And so thank you for coming to see me today. And I have some family watching, and I have friends watching. And if it's one thing that I've learned through this entire process is that I have a lot more friends than I do haters in this world, and that has brought me such incredible peace. And it's a big reason why I can be here today with a smile and feeling comfortable and living a normal life for the most part. It's normal to me. It's my new normal. So, I'm going to start with answering a question, which is usually everybody's first question in the question and answer period. And that is, Andrew Anglin was held accountable for this. He is still on the run. We did win the lawsuit. I won't be collecting any money anytime soon. We knew that there was never going to be any kind of money collection in this. I did it because I couldn't not. And people ask me constantly, why did you fight, Tanya? I'm not sure that I ever could have. And trust me, friends, my family really, really, really at first was very afraid of me doing this. And they said, isn't it easier to just make this go away, Tanya? You don't want these people following you forever. These people are dangerous. I'm afraid for you. I'm afraid for your children. And I thought long and hard about that. Am I really going to put myself in the national spotlight for fighting Nazis? When I say it out loud, it still kind of rings strange to me, right? Like, I'm fighting Nazis in this day and age. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? But then I had these two little boys. At the time, they were 9 and 12. And they looked up at me and, they'd say, Mommy, are we okay? And I'd say, yeah, we're okay. We're okay. And said, Mommy, like, are you gonna be okay? And I'd say, yeah, we're gonna be okay as long as this can become a memory of not being a victim, but of being part of a solution. I'm not sure I could have lived with the fact that we lived through something this horrific, and I just had to live through the painful memories and the fear. So we decided to fight. We won. And now when my children and my children's children discuss this, they're going to remember, yeah, this happened to us. And what happened to us was terrible. But we fought and we won. And I'll tell you what, that is far less scary. This other question that I get asked a lot is, what about the Spencer family? Why did they not get held accountable for this? And what is it like now? Do you still share your town with the Spencer family? And the answer is yes, I do share my town with the Spencer family. I share my community. But you know what? In my community, I live freely. I'm supported by my community. I am loved by my community. And they can't get served in restaurants. They're not. To tell you the truth, Sherry, I don't think I would even recognize her if I saw her. I have never met her in person. I do have to live with the fact that they are out there. And I think that in the end, they got what they deserved. I never did receive an apology from them. So I think that I answered the two big questions from the beginning. So with that, save some questions for the end. And I want to start also with a story about Luggage. I spoke at the in Portland, Oregon, for the Jewish Federation there. And while I was there, I went to the Portland, Oregon Holocaust Memorial. And on the ground at the memorial is this beautiful bronze piece of luggage. And when I saw it, I stopped and I lingered for so long. I sat down next to it, I touched it, I felt it. Because when this first happened, my husband, the night that he told me that I was on a neo-Nazi website with a call attack on my family to come and get us. He got the luggage out of the storage and put it on the floor of our bedroom. And he said, Tanya, we need to pack. And I said, well, why? Where are we going? And he said, I don't know, but we need to pack. And I said, well, what am I packing for? Are we packing for a long time or are we packing for a short time? And he said, Tanya, I don't know. I'm not sure. And I said, well, do you think that I should go wake the children? Like, are we leaving right now? And he said, I don't know, Tanya. I don't know. I don't know where we're going. I don't know what's happening, but I know we need to go. So that luggage sat on the floor of my bedroom for about 5 months, half packed, not knowing if we should run or if we should go. We ultimately decided to stay because we had outside resources that helped us understand what was happening to us. But we never knew during that entire process if we should run, if we should go. Like the Jews during the Holocaust, can you imagine the amount of luggage that was packed with people asking, where are we going? Are we going for a long time? What should I bring? What happened to me was very real. And it was a true modern day anti-Semitic horror story that I and my family are living through, have lived through, are living through. And I know that many of you out there are feeling like you're living through it right now as well. This is a very, very scary time for us. Let's be honest. In light of everything that's happened at the Capitol, I definitely have had quite a hard few weeks watching these haters come to life on national television is incredibly, incredibly painful. But it also helps me keep focused on the fact that I might have won a case, but we have a really, really long way to go. So when I was in Portland on that same trip, I spoke at a retirement home, a Jewish retirement home, and there were about 40 or 50 people in attendance. And I spoke for quite a long time, and there were lots of smiles. They loved that I was that I was optimistic. They loved that I looked on the bright side and felt like there could be an answer to this problem, and that we can fight and we can win, and we don't have to fear for our lives every day. They loved my innocence. They loved that I was willing to come and talk to them, but they also thought I was incredibly naive. They thought, oh, Tanya, you haven't lived what I've lived through. You haven't seen what I have seen. And I'll tell you, this is dangerous what you're doing. And there was one gentleman in particular that really made a fuss and stood up and said, you know, Tanya, this, you know, he just gave me a lot of negativity, brought the room into lots of negativity into the room. And I took a moment to think about how I was going to react to it. And I said, I know that this is your experience. I know that you are scared, and I know that you think that there can't be a solution to this problem. But I'm here to tell you that in my experience, there is far more love in the world than hate. Far more love. There is so much more love in the world than hate. that it kept me alive, it's kept our people alive for many years, and it will for many, many more to come. So if you leave with anything today, I don't want you to leave with feeling pity on me and pity on my family and pity for people that have to face this. I want you to leave with the idea that everybody and everything and every time, every moment, we are part of a solution. We are making headway, and it's worth it. We must not stand by. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir. I mean, you're here today. I know you're here today because you believe this. But I'm here to tell you by experience, it really is true. The Jewish people saved my life. The love that poured into my home was incredible and still pours into my life from the Jewish communities around the world and non-Jewish communities, but I want to talk about that in a second. I want to start with the fact that we are part of this incredible network, and something that I've learned along the way is we must stand together, united. And when I say together, united, I'm telling you right now, we're not. We are not together, united as Jewish people. We are far from together and united. You know, when you go through something really hard, people come up to you and can't come up to you and they'll say, oh, I'm so very sorry for what you've been through. I can't imagine going through this. It's just unthinkable. Oh, and by the way, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. And so I bet they would point out to me that they're part of the tribe. And a lot of people will say, and I bet you've heard this before, oh, I'm Jewish. Oh, but I'm not that Jewish. I'm not like that Jewish. I'm not like, I'm not like Jewish. Um, yes, you are. It became very confusing to me because, I wasn't brought up Jewish. I am Jewish, but my Jewish education was literally lighting Hanukkah candles and maybe a Passover Seder every few years. If my dad was coaxed into it by my mom, I come from a long line of Russian and Polish Jewish descent. But somewhere along the way, my family just stopped observing. I even remember my grandmother coming to visit me from Florida all the way to Idaho. And I always wore a Jewish star. I loved wearing a Jewish star all my life because in a small town, when you're Jewish, it's kind of a novelty. People are very interested because you're different, especially in my schools growing up. I think I was one of like 3 Jewish children in the entire school. And so my mother was always asked, they'd say, Mrs. Rosenstein, can you come into the classroom and light a menorah for the kids so you can educate them on how your family celebrates Christmas? And so she would come into the schools and light the menorah. And all my friends were like, oh, Tanya, you're so lucky. You have 8 days and we only have 1. And I felt so empowered and I felt like it was really special. And that's how my children are growing up as well. Small school, I get to go into the schools and light the menorah for my children's classrooms now. And the children say, wow, this is so special. But I'm Jewish. And if you're Jewish, you're Jewish. Don't think that because you don't celebrate or because you eat ham or because you don't dress like somebody else, you don't keep the Shabbos, it doesn't mean that you're not Jewish. And if you're Jewish, Right now is the time to be Jewish. This is not the time to say to anybody, oh yeah, like I'm Jewish, but I'm not really like practicing, or I'm not really like Jewish. Because you know what we're doing by saying that, especially to non-Jewish people? We're perpetuating our own anti-Semitism. Yes, we are perpetuating our own anti-Semitism because we are judging ourselves and we are judging one another. I I was saved by my people. The Orthodox came to my rescue. The Reform came to my rescue. And when I say rescue, everybody, I mean letters, phone calls, emails, just thanking me for being Jewish and thanking me for speaking for our people. The Chabad, especially, when you go through a really hard time, somehow you find God. It's the when things when you're feeling desperate, you tend to find God. I tended to really all of a sudden look at my like, okay, right now I'm just like Martha Jewart. I I I bake challah every once in a while, and I set a really beautiful Passover table. Once I had children, I started celebrating every holiday, and I wanted it all to be beautiful all the time. So that's how I've been the last 20 years. My childhood was like barely Jewish, but with a really great sense of identity. My adulthood, I married a fabulous Jewish man, and he taught me how much fun our culture was, and I hung on to the fun of our culture. But through this hard time, I found God, and it taught me that there's a lot more to our people than just challah. We are part of generations and generations of something that has been tested time and time again. And right now is the time that I'm tested, or let's say the past 4 years has been the time I've been tested. Right now is the time you are tested. You experienced what happened in the Capitol building. You witnessed Nazis breaking into your homes. And I know a lot of you are feeling vulnerable, just like I have. And I want you to honor that. And I want you to honor that by deciding right now for Tanya and for the sake of our people, no more judging the Orthodox because they're too Orthodox. No more judging the Reform because they're too Reform. No more judging the conservative because they're too conservative. You find the Jew in you and you appreciate it intensely and you support intensely the way everybody else celebrates their Judaism. We must especially stand behind our Orthodox communities right now. They are in costume. They are putting themselves out in public for the world to truly see. I'm just a white girl, right? I'm walking down the street. You can't tell that I'm Jewish. You can tell they are. And they need to know that their people are standing behind them too, because they are targets. We have to stop perpetuating our own anti-Semitism. Lesson number one, everybody, in this horrible story. Who knew? I also received a lot of love letters from the non-Jewish community. I received a box of hats, knitted, handmade hats from a Muslim women's knitting group in Boston. The day that arrived, I knew I was part of something important. I wasn't just part of something scary. And the letters arrived like Harry Potter. They literally fell into our laps from everywhere around the world. And my husband would bring them home from the office every night, and we would pour them out on a coffee table, and we would open them, and I would let my children open them. We'd all sit around on the floor together, and it would take about an hour every night to open these letters, and they would say, "We support you, and we love you, and thank you for fighting." And you could feel the desperation for them, that they weren't just afraid for me, they were afraid for themselves. And here I was opening these letters, and they were telling me I was doing the right thing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We have to open ourselves up to the positivity of being Jewish, everyone. We cannot live in a constant state and fear of what is happening today and what has happened in the past. It does no good. The only thing that does good is to know that we are Jewish and we can be part of a solution. And now, everyone out there who's watching who's not Jewish, the fact that you have logged on today to see me talk because you care enough about what happened to me and what's continuing to happen with the Jewish people, thank you. Because we cannot do this without your support. We, the people, the quicker that we learn, that the quicker Jewish people learn that we are part of we, the people, the quicker we're going to come to a solution in fighting this problem. I get asked a lot, I know that the attacks on your family came over the internet, and I know that they came in the mail, and I know that they came over the phone, but did anyone ever actually show up in person? I mean, how could you be that scared if it just came over the internet? And to that I say, the internet is in person. The internet is our life right now. And the internet has been our life for many, many years. Many of us make our living on the internet. Many of us depend on checking your emails, checking your texts, checking your, working your social media, um, and being out there and being part of the internet world. I had no choice. I did, when this happened, immediately delete my Facebook, delete my Instagram, delete my Pinterest, deleted my personal website. I deleted myself off the face of the planet when this happened, everywhere online I possibly could for security, and it still came into my life. They found me everywhere they possibly could online. As you know, I'm a real estate agent, and I was a real estate agent when this all happened. And they went to every real estate website. Before I was a real estate agent, I was a wedding planner. They went to every wedding planning website, and they left anti-Semitic messages about me. If you Google me, it is disgusting. To this day, you will still see and find pictures of me with a star. I'm just seeing if I can find one, a Star David on my forehead, or on the gates to Auschwitz, or with a sword through my neck. And that will be online forever. I can't get rid of that. I cannot get rid of these images that I have to see, that all of my clients and my family and my friends and my children will see, and my children's children will see forever and ever.
Tanya?
Our online.
Tanya, I'm so sorry to interject. We're getting a lot of questions people are very interested in how, in the face of this hatred and these horrific images, you and the Southern Poverty Law Center have worked to combat this hatred. Would you be able to tell us about that?
Yes. Wow, when Southern Poverty Law Center showed up at my doorstep, whew, you can imagine how excited I was, right? Honestly, I was a little naive to who they were. I had no idea, but my husband knew. And when they emailed and asked if they could come and visit, it was a huge relief for us, knowing that people supported us in a legal capacity. And they came and they interviewed us, and they spent months in doing detective work about the story and what happened. And after some time, they asked me if I wanted to fight. They told me that if I was part of a lawsuit, that we had a chance to take these people down and get rid of this website, and that Andrew Anglin had done this to many people before. So without hesitation, we said yes, absolutely. And they filed the lawsuit, and they warned me that the hate is going to get worse before it gets better. And it did. And with every media appearance, because it was astounding how the world was watching this lawsuit. It was something that I never expected, and SPLC never really expected that people would have this much interest in fighting a Nazi. Sounds strange, right? But and it was a long process, and it took a year. Or it took 2 years, I'm sorry, to finally get there. We had to hunt Andrew Anglin down. He pretended like he wasn't in the country. Eventually, we were able to serve him and start the lawsuit. If you are interested in all the details of the lawsuit, you can still see them on the SPLC website. I could get into that forever. But we built our case, and I'll tell you what, the case is pretty simple. Like I was saying, these messages came online and not in person. But they threatened me and threatened my life. And they took my business away from me because of it. They took my sense of safety away because of it. They took my health away because of it. Their words entered my life and almost destroyed it. It was the modern day cross burning. And we knew that they would be held accountable legally. And my case sets a huge precedence to people that incite violence and do calls of attack on people or individuals. that kind of incitement, that kind of hate speech that directly affects lives is not free speech. That is terrorism. And that's what my case was about. It was about, this isn't internet bullying. This is not, uh, you know, telling a teenage girl that you don't like her outfit and harassing her and ruining her day at school the next day. Those internet bullies that are harassing kids online, the kids that internet bullying that seems uh, so innocent. No, that's not innocent. Think about the amount of teenagers that are committing suicide on a regular basis. Think about the pain that comes into your life with those kinds of messages. That is what we fought for. And it's about time that we expose the fact that the internet is the wild, wild west, everybody. And we are just living at the very beginning. Cowboys used to be able to have shootouts and bury their neighbor in their backyard because he stole his horse. They used to be able to ride around shooting Indians, and it was okay. It was the Wild West. Eventually, we had to set some laws. Eventually, we had to pull in the Wild Wild West and say, whoa, we better get this, have maybe some rules and regulations so this nation doesn't become completely out of control. My case was the beginning of reining in the wild, wild west of the internet. Did I answer that question?
I think so, yes. But if you'd like to
Okay.
continue, we'd love to hear more.
Okay. Oh, the internet. I can go on forever about that. I'll tell you, I'm continuing my work with that because, I might not ever collect money from Andrew Anglin, but I'm blessed in that I had one request when this all started, my SPLC attorneys. I said, I don't need money, but I wouldn't mind having the dailystürmer.com. And they're going to fight for me to get it. That's called that's called intellectual property. And that will be a day that I say, Baruch Hashem, some real good can come now. So that's something that's hopefully in the works for me. Keep you posted on that. And we're fighting for it now. And hopefully some real good can come out of Tanya Gersh owning the dailystürmer.com web domain, right? Okay, so I want to go back to Jews being out and loud and proud and not living in fear. Part of the way that I learned this through this process was that I had some gay attorneys, and I had two incredible gay best friends. And I had never really had an opportunity to have gay friends. I live in a small town, and I learned from them over the last few years, when things get rough and people don't like you, you don't just declare that you don't fight for what you believe. Fighting doesn't help. Fighting just makes the other side mad. You know what you do? You throw parades. You throw parades. You celebrate. If you love who you are and you know who you are is positive and light and brings goodness to the world, and you know you're on the right side, you throw parades. Do I really mean that Jews should start making floats and throwing parades? Maybe. You know, we are such a private culture. We're shy, we're private, we don't proselytize. And I think that we might be very misunderstood because of it. Especially because, you know, you don't typically video yourself celebrating Shabbos and lighting candles because you're not really supposed to. You know, there's rules against that. And, you know, so we're very mysterious. I don't know, maybe this is the time that we start showing the world how fabulous we are. For goodness sakes, the very thing that we believe in the most is taking care of other people. Like the basic number one foundation of our religion is taking care of one another and other people, Jewish, non-Jewish alike, before even we take care of ourselves.
Tanya, that is a
Wow.
wonderful segue into another question that we have. They're coming in fast and furious.
Please.
Emily wondered, how can I, aside from supporting the Southern Poverty Law Center, combat the hate speech prevalent on the internet and be an ally?
Okay, thank you for asking, because it starts with you. It starts on a very personal and very grassroots level. And that's first starting to answer questions for everybody about who you are and why you're fighting for this cause. So people start to understand who Jewish people really are. How are they going to love us if they don't know us? There is nothing to hate. So start there. Start spreading this gospel that I get so excited about, obviously. And then teach it to your kids. Teach the pride, the pride movement of who we are, especially right now, because if we don't, Hitler won. If we don't, if we live in fear, we lost the war. We must continue to survive, and by surviving comes from your lips. And then bring it to your communities. There are lots of interfaith groups and studies in communities that reach out to one another to help educate about different religions. Wow, what an incredible place to start. Educate at your workplace. Everyone educate at your workplace about why you need to take high holidays off and how wonderful it is, rather than it being a demanding request. Choose it to be an educational opportunity. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. Thank you. Do you
Yeah.
think that white supremacists in your area are more emboldened or underground or gone, or what do you, after everything that's happened over the last few years, do you have any sense of any potential change?
Oh, they are emboldened as ever. Yes. Wow, you know, I didn't even know that anti-Semitism was a problem 4 years ago. I was kind of living in my own little bubble of, you know, happiness, and it didn't affect me, so I didn't really pay attention to it. And ladies and gentlemen, this might be one of the more dangerous times for us. Anti-Semitism has grown in huge numbers. This is not a problem with boys with tattoos and skinheads and combat boots throwing hate parties in their basement. No, these are gentlemen in business suits that have Ivy League educations socializing amongst your college students and amongst your friends and amongst your colleagues and spreading their hate. The people to fear are not necessarily the cowards that I'm sorry, the cowards who want to spew hate and not take credit for it. The anti-Semitism to fear are the brave ones that are willing to say it publicly and think that somehow it's normal. That's where to put your efforts if you're really gonna work hard to combat anti-Semitism. More questions?
Many more, thank you. I'm going to combine several questions that have come in. There's a lot of interest in Whitefish in your hometown. You ended up there, how the community has changed. We've even had some questions about just how big it is. Could you tell us a little bit more about your town?
Yes, Whitefish is a small ski and lake resort community in northwest corner of Montana, as white as can be. But I'll tell you, when things got rough, Whitefish saved my life, along with my people. When they got word that this was happening, I didn't know that I had friends, this many friends in Whitefish. This community came together and said, oh no, not in this town. This kind of hate does not happen to any of my people. It is a community that came together, that loved their community and the people within their community enough to say, look, I'm not Jewish, but there is no way Whitefish is going to accept this. There's no way that we're going to bow down and just brush this under the carpet. They decided to do love not hate rallies. 500-600 people showed up in 0-degree weather in the middle of my storm and had an entire festival declaring love not hate. Our city council met and decided that they would not allow this in the community and wrote a declaration against neo-Nazis coming into our community and spreading hate. They did not stand afraid. Let this too, please be a very educational opportunity. If you live in a community where you have a close-knit community that cares about infrastructure and sidewalks and planting flowers and decorating for the holidays, then I promise you, you have a community that has the power to declare it's not acceptable. I showed up at this rally. I did not want to go because there was so much media there and I was afraid for my life. I literally thought at the time people were going to show up with guns and protest this, and I was going to be the center and I would be recognized, and I was just crying. And my husband said, Tanya, we're going to go to this. I promise you, you do not have to be scared. I went and I witnessed the power of what can really happen if a community comes together, a community of non-Jews. There's very small Jewish community in our town, but I'll tell you, it's very special. Doesn't have to be a big community to be a special community. We have a Reform community and we have a Chabad community. And we are like a family, and our town has embraced the Jewish family. And to this day, a menorah hangs in the window of our town hall because of to remember what happened in our community, because the community was targeted as well. After me, they decided that anyone that sounded Jewish in our community should be sent hate mail as well. And instead of pretending like it didn't happen and running scared, they Xeroxed 3,000 paper menorahs. The storm started during the Hanukkah season for me, and they Xeroxed these paper menorahs. They're blue with the shape of Montana and a menorah in the center. And everywhere you drove in this town, you would see a menorah hanging in the window. And to this day, I will be driving through neighborhoods showing properties, and there's a menorah in a window. That is community. Mm.
Thank you, Tanya. That seems like a perfect sentiment to wrap up this incredible conversation. I want to also just share one comment that came in through the Q&A. One of our participants today commented, "I so commend your courage and the courage of your family for not backing down. You are a model for us to follow." So thank you so much. And thank you. And thank you to everyone who has joined us today for this meaningful program. In the chat, you will see a link to a survey. Please take a moment to fill it out. Your feedback is important to us to make sure we're on the mark and to be able to report back to our generous donors. Please also visit our events page, which is also linked in the chat. Our next program will be on Wednesday, February 10th at 6:30 p.m. on Jewish genealogy, old myths and new science, presented by Museum Heritage Committee, followed by a special presentation on Ordinary Men by Christopher Browning on February 11th at 6:30 p.m. The registration links for both of those programs are on the events page, again, which is linked in the chat. We are also thrilled to be opening our next special exhibition, Mandela Struggle for Freedom, later this month. The opening program for that exhibition will be on February 18th at 7:30 p.m. The museum is now open from Wednesday through Sunday with procedures in place to ensure the safety of all of our guests. We hope to see you soon at the museum and on our virtual programs. And Tanya, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.